And I shall say that again. Thank you so much. And by the way, I want to introduce you as, Michael Neal, my teacher, and someone I think of as a mentor as well, having spent an amazing year at Supercoach Academy as an advanced tracker. Is that a real word, tracker?
Tracker, it's very similar to trekker, which is, as opposed to Trekkie, which if you're a Star Trek fan is the appropriate way to do it. So advanced tracker, very nice.
Tracker, yes.
Yeah.
And what a year it's been. I just want to take a moment and acknowledge that amazing time we've spent together with 80 people. And the adventures and the transformation, and I highly recommend it to anyone who want to step up their game as a coach and really want to look at the inside out understanding of the principles, and now is actually a good time for them to get in touch and check it out, because you're getting ready for 2017.
We're gearing up for 2017. We've got a beautiful venue right on the beach in Venice, and it's actually a yoga studio that from the outside, I literally walked past it because it's right on the boardwalk, and it's attached to a restaurant, and it looks like nothing. It looks like Venice, where it's amazing spray painted murals. And then I walk in and it's this gorgeous, quiet as a pin drop yoga studio that's just right there. And I just thought, well, this is the perfect metaphor. Like for the inside out is, we're in this amazingly quiet space on the inside, and then we go outside and it is chaos. I mean, there's roller skating, half naked humans, and it's awesome.
I know, Venice is such a party. Oh my God. So it's so cool that you found a venue right there, because it's going to be nice to hang out. And well, now I'm jealous. Can I do an advanced tracker? Number 3? It's like, no, you can't get rid of me. So people can check it out in
supercoachacademy.com.
Supercoachacademy.com. So that's that. Okay, now back to a more serious question. Your current favorite wine?
My current favorite wine, I'm a little limited because we've gone organic, and
nice.
and so we actually get organic wines delivered, and we have a local sommelier who, whenever he finds new organic wines, sends them over for us to try, which means that I don't know what any of them are. Like, in other words, I have one bottle of something and go, that's great, but then don't remember. So my current favorite wine is whichever one Nina serves.
Oh, that's so lovely. And why have you gone organic besides the obvious? And
no, just the obvious, just health.
Yeah.
The sort of spraying of the crops. Look, I am not personally averse to the odd sprayed glass of Cabernet if it is amazing, but for daily use, we're definitely organic.
Yeah, that sounds definitely like a solution. And I'm so jealous. We have such a bad choice in Quebec of organic wine. And now that's giving me an idea. Is there another business coming?
Well, that's actually the wines we get shipped in is the guy who does Bulletproof Coffee. He got together with a few other people who were interested in that and went what are the wines that are healthy and don't give us hangovers? And that was, and yes, a business was born. That's how it happened.
That is so smart. And as soon as I had the thought for the business, I remembered that actually we're not allowed to start those businesses in Quebec. We can't have private shop. Yet another good reason to move to California.
There you go. Hey, we got land here. We got space. We don't have rain.
You don't have rain. You don't have water.
But other than that.
Yeah, I want to move to California. I've been talking about it for 3 years, and Andrew wants nothing to do with it. Yeah. So, I'm going to keep working on it. Okay, next question. Another very important question. Favorite country that you visited lately?
Boy, let's see. What's the answer that will not offend every other country I've visited lately? My favorite country to visit and spend time in is Switzerland. And I I said to somebody once, they said, why? And I was like, I don't know. But like, I don't think I believe in past lives. I'm not like completely, no, that's crazy, but I don't think I believe in it.
Okay.
But if they did exist, I spent at least one of them in Switzerland. Because the first time I went, I was 6 years old. And I remember feeling completely at home. We were in this little mountain village called Adelboden near Bern and in the sort of foothills of Mount Wildstrubel. And it was just, I was at home. We'd go down to the village and get our loaf of bread in the morning. And I remember thinking, oh, this is really natural. And I've been back 4 or 5 times since. I've done retreats there. And each time I go back, I just have this incredible sense of coming home. So that's the one. But, you know, nothing against Finland, Sweden, Denmark, all the other countries that I get the chance to go to. I find something to enjoy everywhere, but Switzerland's my little home.
Oh, I love that. And it is strange and fascinating that we can go to some countries. And for me, interestingly enough, I think when I was 22 after my university, I spent a year in Japan, in Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
And of the weirdest place ever, I felt home in Tokyo.
Right. I keep promising my daughter we're gonna get her to Tokyo. She's got a real Tokyo in her head.
Oh, she's gonna love it. What a wild experience. And I can't wait to go back because, hey, Japanese food and hey, sake. And back then I didn't like sake. Can you imagine? You have like sake.
Terrible waste. Yeah.
Terrible waste. And they have these sake festivals and everybody's drinking in the streets. So everything seems to turn around the subject of wine, champagne, or... Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm not sure how inside out this is, but we're going to have a great time.
No, we're going to get there. Okay. Last question. Your favorite podcast these days?
The Caroline Frenette Show. Well, and Caffeine for the Soul. I have a certain fondness for my own podcast.
Of course, Caffeine for the Soul, which is lovely, which I listened to an episode this morning while taking a walk with the kids.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, a little moment of truth before I almost got hit by a bike, and then it's like off with the headphones. Seriously, now I want to jump into... I was thinking about that earlier. You've been coaching for something like 25 years.
I'm in my 26th year. Yeah.
And do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
I do, very much so. Though, funnily enough, I didn't always. I was an accidental entrepreneur in that at a certain point I noticed, oh, I've got 5 people working with me and I've got, I've got this whole team and it's like I suddenly realized I had a business. But I never set out to build one. And then it was just a certain point where I realized that I had it and I needed to pay attention to it and treat it as a business, as opposed to I'd been able for many years because it was just me to just go, well, it's just me with an assistant. Well, it's just me with an assistant and a bookkeeper. Well, it's just me with an assistant and a bookkeeper and a sales team. Well, it's just me with an assistant, a bookkeeper. I interviewed Anita Moorjani for my podcast the other week, and one of the things she said is that I said, what's different? Because she got into this through a near-death experience as opposed to through wanting to be a speaker or a coach or anything. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, the biggest difference is that it takes 6 people for me to be me now.
Oh, wow.
I really resonated with that. Like that was a great description. Because in many ways, what I'm doing is what I've always done. I speak to groups. I work with individuals. I do radio and broadcasting. But now, because of the size of it, it takes a number of people for me to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I have a business. Mm-hmm. And I definitely approach it as best I can with that entrepreneurial attitude of let's see what we can create, as opposed to the sort of big business mentality where here's our 5-year plan.
Yeah. And I like to sometimes look at entrepreneurs to see like what are their strongest qualities that give them the ability to do what they do. Do you see some of your key qualities that make you a successful entrepreneur?
Well, I think from a quality point of view, like if I was going to create the ideal entrepreneur on paper, I don't think I would fit it. I think ideally as an entrepreneur, you want to be far more willing to fail financially than I am, because it lets you try more things and it lets you be more experimental. And I'm at a point in my career where I just don't really want to go back to zero. Like there was a time where I might have been up for that. So I do some things differently than I would describe the ideal entrepreneurial spirit. But the things that I've got that really do help are, I know to go with what makes sense to me instead of what the market tells me. Like, it's not that I'm blind to the market, and obviously I course correct according to what it tells me. But I would never not do something because, well, the market reports say that it's trending towards this, and people want organic wine now. And that's never made sense to me. I'm going to do what makes sense to me to do, and I'm going to either find people who want it, or I'm going to have fun doing it and then do something else. And I think that's a trait that serves me very well as an entrepreneur. I actually handle uncertainty really well. Mm. I've learned over the years that not seeing where the money's going to come from isn't a problem. That actually, when an idea comes, I can often get that idea to market within a couple of days, a couple of weeks at most. And so sometimes the turnaround from idea to money in the bank is, 5 days. And so that gives me a certain freedom of movement where I don't have to have it all figured out in advance. By the same token, as I do more and more, I do have stuff calendared out 18 months in advance, because otherwise I couldn't do what I do at the scale that I like to do it. So it's an interesting blend of a willingness to plan, but a willingness to also just stay in the unknown for longer than some people are comfortable with until I know.
Mm. So you talked about being comfortable with uncertainty, and then you also talked about, not being willing to risk it all. It's funny, as you were saying that, I was thinking, well, that to me sounds like a more mature entrepreneurial spirit, someone who has grown in his way that he creates. And then I'm wondering, like, why do you think entrepreneurs need to be willing to risk it all? Do you think that this is how they can go big?
Well, I think, I like you having now called that out. I think there's a difference. I was interviewing a woman named Dana Leesgang recently. She's a Hay House author who did a book called Falling Up, and she had a horrible traumatic experience in the military and is quadriplegic, but has kind of created this awesome life working with people. And one of the things that really struck me about her is that when she talked about her risks, like she jumps out of airplanes in a wheelchair, like she does things that to me seem nuts. And I said that to her. I said, look, she was talking about being in a microlight and doing all these things. And I was like, with the greatest respect, if you had full use of your limbs, I would think a lot of what you do is nuts. Mm-hmm. And she laughed and she said, well, it's kind of, there was a great phrase we came up with, but it was something like responsible crazy. Like, yes, she jumps out of an airplane, but she has a parachute on. Yes, she flies a glider, but she's learned to fly a glider. So she engages in potentially dangerous, life-threatening activities, but not blindly. And I think that actually is the true entrepreneurial spirit, the mature entrepreneurial spirit, is yes, you are putting everything at risk. I do too. I absolutely put everything at risk with certain ventures, but they're educated risks. They're risks I'm willing to take because A, the odds are in my favor. I have a kind of a knowing that I think this is in the cards, that this is going to work. And B, I also know on the off chance it all goes horribly wrong, well, I'll be okay. I'm not aiming for that. I'm not, let's just see what happens. But by the same token, if that's what happens, I'll recover from that.
Oh yeah, that makes so much sense. I just had this memory of when I started one of my first businesses. One of the things that I thought was working for me was that ambition and drive and speed, remember I told you that 3 years ago that I love going fast, and you called me out on that, and you said, I don't think that's really working for you. By the look of your overwhelm. And as you were talking, I was just remembering that in my first businesses, I was not doing the calculated risk thing. It was purely, passion. And the risk in there, man, now I see the difference. And that's where I'd like for us to dive into the principles. Like I've seen, one of the biggest thing for me is that slowing down within me, where I have the ability now to kind of check, those calculated risk, and by also slowing down, I'm able to feel my intuition a lot more. While in the past, my intuition had to show me huge red flags in order for me to see it, or, put things in my way so that I would stumble and fall and just stop and look. And my intuition is like, hello, I've been telling you. So with that slowing down, the mature entrepreneur.
Hello, we're the mature entrepreneur. Can we invite you for a glass of red wine and a podcast?
An organic red wine.
Yes, please.
Yeah, we just created a new archetype. TM.
It'll be big. It'll be huge.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, I'll jump in because I want to make a point about, you're talking about slowing down. Yes. And I think a lot of times when people hear that, they think, no, but I've got to go faster. And we're talking about slowing down on the inside. Mm-hmm. So I always loved, John Wooden is the most successful basketball coach in American history. And he had one of his first things that he would teach his teams, because he was a college coach. And so new players would come in and he would say to them repeatedly, be quick, but don't hurry. And I think that's great advice for entrepreneurs. Be quick. Things don't have to take a long time. Don't take 6 months to get the perfect website before you launch. Don't take a year to get all your ducks in a row before you do anything. But don't hurry. And that's that inner speed. Mm-hmm. I love the phrase from Joe Bailey and Richard Carlson's book, Slowing Down to the Speed of Life. No slower. Yeah. But no faster.
Yeah.
Athletes talk about letting the game come to you. When you get an athlete, the difference between a rookie and a veteran is the veteran knows to let the game come to them. They're not chasing the game. And as a mature entrepreneur, right, then I feel like I'm 80. As a mature entrepreneur. But as a sort of a mature entrepreneur in the way that we're using the word, it's like, let the business come to you. Like you're working with it. You're there every day. You're putting in the hours. You're putting out the effort, but you're not chasing. And that's a very different place. And it's a very sustainable place. Like one of the things, and let's play it all the way out. One of the things about an immature entrepreneur is that they go like they're going to be able to go forever. And, look, for a while you can. But it's not just age, right? It's stress. It's the accumulated wear and tear. And the typical entrepreneur story is, well, my first business, and then I burned out, but then when I recovered, and then it's like, that doesn't have to be the story. It's not a choice between just do one thing for the rest of your life or be an entrepreneur. It's why not be an entrepreneur who's able to go from one business to the next with no loss of enthusiasm and no loss of energy. Right. I got an email yesterday from a guy who runs he runs a huge portfolio of companies in the entertainment industry. Really cool guy. And he wanted to come to our productivity weekend in LA. But he said, if I can wrangle the energy, I'll be there. And I wrote back to him and I said, hey, if you wrangle the energy to be there, I promise you by the end of the weekend, you won't be so worried about wrangling energy. Because so much of our energy gets used up in our mental hype. that we don't have the energy to actually do the work. The work's not the hard part. Like, the work's just work. Like, you want a job without work, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But you want a job without all the stress and the crazy. Well, that's you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just had a thought when I was a baby entrepreneur. I was spending money like there was no tomorrow, and just really a bad planner, which now hopefully as a more mature entrepreneur, I'm going to get a better grasp on cash flow.
Yeah.
Oh man. Would you say that, again, I had this vision of your career for the past 26 years. How much of an impact on your business and on you as an entrepreneur has the understanding of the principles had?
Well, a ridiculous amount in a couple of different ways. One is I figured out at a certain point that more wasn't necessarily better. So I was very much chasing more. Like that, I actually had a book called Getting More. That was one of the books that I really, Getting More. And I remember the moment, like, as I started to slow down a little on the inside and take a fresh look at things and not just accept everything I'd read in every book I'd ever read. I'd hit a huge financial target for me. And I remember walking down the street. I was in London, and walking down the street and the thought occurring, okay, so what's the next target? And going, really? Does this have an end? Is there an end game to this? Because I realized that, like, the difference in my business at that time between $900,000 in revenue and $1 million in revenue was the difference between heaven and hell. Like, what I had to do to bring in that extra 100,000 in revenue the first 7-figure year that we had literally almost killed me. But I could have gotten to 900,000 and had a great year. But in my head, no, must hit target, must get more. And so waking up to the illusory nature of all that, the nonsensical nature, the arbitrary nature of those targets, no, this is an important number. It has a 0 at the end, right? I was able to kind of realize there is a natural rhythm. And yes, your business will grow if you continue to do good business, provide great value, reach more people, have more impact. That's inevitable. You're rolling downhill at that point. But how quickly you get there and which bit of the hill that you're rolling down counts, well, you're making that up. And if it inspires you, great. But just check that it's not rushing you, that it's not pulling you, that it's not taking you out of your own wisdom and knowing and into your crazy head. Because we've all got one, or we wouldn't be in this business in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to Rudy Kennard yesterday, and he shared an insight he had where everything changed in terms of what he thought of success. And it's a good story. It's going to come out next week. But it's going to speak to so many people. And what you just said also, how we make up so much about the numbers and the target and the success and what it means, and always going for more. And how tiring. I was definitely on that roller coaster with my retail businesses. And
it's not an either or. I think that's part of the thing to realize. In the same way as you can be quick but not hurry, you can make more without being about more. More is inevitable, right? As long as you continue to create value over time, you'll make more, right? That's how it works. Mm-hmm. So it's not saying, hey, settle for less. It's saying, just realize that's an inevitable effect of rolling downhill, right? You keep rolling downhill, you will keep getting further, right? That's how it works. Mm-hmm. That's physics. So the idea that you've got to chase it when you've got gravity on your side is just a misunderstanding.
Wow, the image that you said earlier about letting the game come to you, can you talk more about what that could look like for an entrepreneur?
Yeah, like I know for myself when look, the number one thing that I think every entrepreneur faces at all stages of the business is cash flow. Right? That just is. I mean, I don't know if you had George on, but George Pransky, has said to me on numerous times, we taught some courses for entrepreneurs, and, he said, look, an entrepreneur complaining about cash flow is like a busboy complaining about dishes. That's the gig. Right. And so one of the things is that when you're in a cash flow situation where there's more going out than is coming in, it's really tempting to chase. Okay, who can I call? What can I do? Where can I get? Okay, I'm a sale. We're going to put on a sale. And now you might wind up doing that. But if you're willing to stay with yourself, to stay with your wisdom, to stay with your knowing, you'll know when to do that and when not to. And you'll find the next day, sometimes that afternoon, you get a call, you get an email. A new opportunity presents itself, a new idea presents itself. And like my biggest story on that was in 2000 and I'm trying to think now, it's 2012. So I'd been running the Supercoach Academy for 3 years, and I'd hit a point where when I started, I was just seeing the principles. I got some of it. I'd had one big insight, which was that we're okay. Like that was huge. I mean, I say, all I knew was we're fundamentally okay. It was huge, but I didn't see the ramifications of that for my business. And so it seemed to me that I went from being a high performance success coach to helping people feel fine about not getting what they wanted. That was my little joke in my own head was, hey, pay me $50,000 and I'll make it okay that you don't live the life of your dreams. Now, understand my clients did not have that experience. I kept getting clients. They kept feeding back to me how much of a difference it was making in their lives and businesses. So it was all in my head, but it was in my head. And so I kind of let the business go. And I just went, okay, if it comes to me, I'll take it. This is a different version of letting it come to you. But otherwise, I don't want to, I don't feel good about selling this because I don't know what I'm selling. And of course, inevitably, over the course of a year, my business dried up because I wasn't talking about it. I wasn't putting it out there. And it got to a point where before one of the weekends of Supercoach Academy, we had nothing in the account, and I forget what the number that needed to go out was, but like say $60K that was supposed to go out. And I was on the phone to my wife, and we were in tears because we were like, oh, well, finally blew it. And she was like, what are we going to do? And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, we'll be okay, but I don't know how. So the next morning, I walked into the room, and Aaron Turner and Mara Gleason were teaching that weekend. And I heard Aaron say something. And I don't know exactly what he said. I haven't gone back and listened to the recording. But he said something like that he considered his job was to make sure that people had everything they needed to succeed. And something in me clicked. And I literally in that moment went, oh, I do that. And that's important. And that, oh my God, of course, that's what people are actually getting and paying me for. And literally, that was I don't know if it was a Friday or a Saturday. That was a Friday. On the Saturday, I came up with an idea for a new program. And we announced it on the Sunday, and we had 160,000 in the bank by Tuesday. And that was one of those things, that's letting it come to you. Now, admittedly, that was the hard way, right? I really waited. You don't have to do it like that.
Yeah.
That was the limits of my understanding at that time. But I've seen that happen so many times now. And I've even looked back and seen, oh, that used to happen before. I just didn't credit it. Like I went to a coach, you've heard me tell the story, but I went to a coach to help me with business and showed him my books. And he was like, well, you make lots of money. Why do you need help with business? And I said, because I feel like I'm pulling rabbits out of my ass all the time. Like, I don't know. I'd like to not feel like that.
Yeah.
And the two things that I really got from that coaching, one of them was that I was treating money like oxygen, but I was acting as though I lived underwater. And he never said that. That was what I saw. So like money as oxygen's fine because we live in oxygen. Right? We don't have to think about oxygen because it's all around us. So having money as oxygen is not the problem. The problem is having money as oxygen and thinking you're underwater. Because then you're desperate for it. And people do stupid things when they're desperate. The second thing that I saw is rabbits live up my ass. Like, that's just where the ideas come from. They come from nothing. They come from nowhere. And that, I thought that was a problem. I thought that was because I wasn't doing it right. I didn't see, no, that's how it works. Ideas come through the unknown. And if you're not willing to be in the unknown long enough, you won't get them. Or you'll get one and think, oh, well, I only get one good idea every 10 years, so I can only have one business every 10 years. It's like, no, they're coming out of every orifice you got. Is this good? Is this charming? Am I winning over the mature entrepreneur?
I'm loving this. Go, keep going. Yes, we're onto something here. You know that some people might hear that, yes, but you're Michael Neill. You can make an offer and you'll make 150 grand. What about people don't have your platform? What would you say to that?
Well, I wasn't always Michael Neill. Like I was.
Well, yes, you were, but
here's the thing. The thing that's different is the number. If I had done that in 1990, which I did, by the way, my very first offer, I made an offer, 33 pounds for 2 hours. And I got clients. I did my very first training, 33 pounds for a 6:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. early morning session. First two sold out. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't know who I was. But they were excited about what was on offer, and we were able to deliver it. So yeah, the numbers changed, but the principle hasn't changed at all. Idea comes out of butt, goes into world responds, money in bank. You know, the number changes over time because I'm rolling downhill.
Yes.
So it gathers momentum.
Yeah. And can we kind of dive into that in terms of what it looks like if we talked about state of mind? Like, for example, for me, because I used to say that, yes, but I am not where this person is. And then I started to see that was a lot of bullshit I was telling in my head that was actually not helping me. It was a closed state of mind. So can we dive a little bit into how people can have an open state of mind, and if we could talk about how can people train themselves to see opportunities and to seize opportunities? Where does that come from besides the rabbit out of your ass?
Well, so there's a few different answers to that aren't gross. There's plenty of answers to that are, but I'm going to try and skip them. One of the things, and I'm up against this all the time, by the way, like I am continually amazed at how limited my imagination is. One of my coaches said to me once that, you've somehow created a masterpiece of a life on a postage stamp of possibility. So I recognize still how limited my world is until it isn't. Like then I see bigger and I see more possibility. But I think the two things that really help, the first is it's all a fruit of settling down. Right. So we created on the last small group training that we did, we made up a degree program in the principles in success. And so the bachelor's program was in settling down, because it all starts with just chilling out, like letting your thoughts settle, getting that you don't have to pay so much attention to every thought that's going through your head. And that just does people a world of good. Right? The master's program was in willingness. So just a willingness to put yourself out there, to try stuff, to fail, to fall down, to try something else, to engage with the world, to open up to the unknown at a deeper level, to be wrong about things. Like that is huge. And that's so much easier to do as you settle down. And then the PhD program was in knowing. It was in trusting and respecting that deep wisdom that we all have inside us and comes to our rescue. But we keep getting ourselves into trouble, so we need it to come to our rescue instead of letting it actually guide us the whole way. And so for me, like that's the journey. You settle down, you open yourself up, and then you begin to gain a respect for and trust in this deep creative intelligence we all have flowing through us all the time. And we start to rely on it. And I always say to people, look, it's 100% reliable. It's just that it's 98% unpredictable what it'll come up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was thinking about that this week because just the latest podcast I recorded, I think it's 2021. Yeah, I was reflecting on my last year. And I actually shared that with you in the advanced track call, that I felt that it had been like a year of, it felt like winter, like nothing much was happening in my business. And then Monday morning, so yeah, I guess you wouldn't know that, but Monday morning I'm taking a walk with the dogs and I asked a simple question in my mind to my intuition. And it's like I'd been waiting a year to get that answer. And she showed me a very clear project for the year to come. And it has to do with a lot of travels and training people in different countries and giving back projects and videoing the whole thing, because I'm feeling called to do some video and photography. Anyway, and it kept popping up, like ideas over ideas over ideas over ideas kept popping up until it became a vision for 2017. It was literally like plopped out of my my head, and it kind of, like those books with the images that come out of the book?
Yeah, the pop-up books.
The pop-up books. Well, it popped up that way, and I saw my whole year. And the vision is so compelling and luminous and scary and exciting and filled with unknown. And then I was thinking, why did it take a year? And I started to think about it a little bit, and I'll share what I think, but I'd like to hear what you think. And I think that it sounds simple, but it goes back again to state of mind. I think that there was a part of me during the year that had still a lot of attachment as to what was going to be the next step for me in my business, and feeling the calling, but not seeing it in the world of form. And somehow, even though I did a lot in the last year, the clarity for the next phase wasn't there. And I'm wondering how much there was still a lot of attachment from my ego mind to just try to control. And then why is it that Monday morning I'm taking a walk with the kids, it's a beautiful fall day, and suddenly the question I've been asking for a year, suddenly it shows me a whole vision for 2017. So I'm not exactly clear what the magic is behind that, but I guess part of me would like to know if there's something we can all know so that we don't have to wait a year, or,
Yeah, I mean, I have a take. I don't know if I'm right. Like, I don't have a sort of, I know what that is. Like, part of it is wisdom is a real-time phenomenon. So we get what we need when we need it. So it often turns out that we get it when we're ready to do something with it. And until we're ready to do something with it, we don't get it. Like, I can look back throughout my life and see that things happened in the right time, not the time I wanted them to happen in. They did happen, but had they happened earlier, I know I would have messed them up. I wasn't ready for them. So there's that. I don't know that that's true and the universe really works exactly like that and blah, 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 but I noticed that in me. The other thing is, I think very often for me, I forget that I know. And so I go looking everywhere else for the answer. I talk to other people, I read books, I study, I somehow forget that it's always when the penny drops in me that things move. Mm-hmm. While all those external things can help that penny drop, it's always going to come from inside me, the next great idea that is so perfect for me that I can bring it into being effortlessly. Not without doing, but without efforting. Mm-hmm. And so I think as often as not, it just, we forget we're probably not as settled down as we think we are. Mm-hmm. And it comes when it comes, but definitely, like, my experience over time. So as a mature entrepreneur, if I look back to the early years of my business, like, I would get a major business changing insight or idea about every 3 to 5 years. So I remember the first one to launch the business back in 1990. And then I remember the second one in 2002, I think it was, to buy out my business partner. Because I could see that I could do more on my own than I was able to do with my first business partner. And then, I can kind of mark moments along the way where it was like, oh, okay, this is the next big thing. What's happened since I've seen, the nature of the mind at a deeper level, both what we have working for us and what gets in our way in our own heads, is that I get those ideas ongoing. Now, not a major business changing idea every day, but I live quite an insightful life. And I love that. And sometimes the insights are about things that are nothing to do with business. But as often as not, because I'm engaged in business, they're to do with my business. And so we get an idea, and I have an idea for a new program. I have an idea for a particular person that I've been thinking about, and I'm going, oh, I bet this would really help them. And sometimes those ideas aren't even things that help me, right? Sometimes the idea has nothing to do with me, but I'll still let them know because I just feel that's a good discipline to just, if there's something that'll help somebody, share it with them.
Yeah.
There's no downside to that. And so that as a direction of travel is what's exciting about this, is that those good ideas stop looking rare. They stop looking like annual events. And that just starts to be the relationship you have with your own wisdom and your own mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And if I look back again, I feel I've become a more mature entrepreneur as a result of everything that we've been up to this year. I mean, all this transformation and diving more into the principles, and it kind of makes sense if I look back on what I was feeling called to do, mm-hmm. and the level of leadership and then transformation that happens within us, that we're actually able to create that. And that, to me, is almost like a vision of even more inside out, like, holding. Well, I said that the other day to you, and I don't know if you resonated with that, but I said that I feel that there has to be the energy within us in order to create it outside. And in hindsight, I feel that now I'm even more ready for the vision that I've seen. And I don't know that I would have been ready next year. So there's an organic component to that. There's just an organic flow. And if I'm going to be totally honest, like, it's just my little mind, my ego mind, that's that's unhappy about the speed of things and the time frame.
Yeah. And I think it's important, for people listening to kind of recognize that you might be on either side of this continuum. You might be somebody who actually needs to get off your ass and do something. You might be somebody who's not hurrying, but also not quick. Mm-hmm. And that's going to have an impact on how your business grows. Similarly, you are quite likely, if you're entrepreneurial, to be on the other side of it, where you're quick, but you're also hurrying all the time. Mm-hmm. And so it's not always slow down. Sometimes it's speed up. But just in this particular arena, that's less often the problem, unless you're burned out, unless you've got a little bit of, post-traumatic entrepreneurial disorder, where you've had a couple of bad experiences and you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to go there again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually wisdom. But it's not telling you don't do this. It's telling you don't do this the way you've been doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's so big. And I hope that everybody listening can really hear that, because it really is an invitation to listen within themselves to what they need. Like whatever we've been talking about, it's just an example of our experience of, seeing the principles at play sometimes and sometimes not seeing them. And it is an invitation to come and play in the field of potentiality and possibilities. And the most important thing is for people to recognize within them what's right for me, and to get off that crazy train if they've been on that crazy train, because people have been telling them that that's how you have to build a business. And that's why I'm passionate about this podcast, because there's so much stuff we hear out there that it's like, no, don't listen to the experts if it drives you nuts. Listen to your inner expert.
And I think this is the thing. I think, there are times I'm a reader, and I used to be a big reader. I'm now a small reader, but I used to be a 3-book-a-week minimum guy. And there would periodically, it would occur to me, even when I was really up in my head, boy, if all this stuff was really that useful, I'd be the happiest, most successful person on the planet. And I wasn't. And so I would kind of go on a little fast, and a little input fast, a little information fast. And I'd get reconnected and re-inspired. And then I'd go back to my books and get lost in them again. Now, my relationship to books and podcasts and input is different. I still love them. I still find them fascinating, but I'm fascinated in them for what they trigger in me. I'm not fascinated in them as adding to my collection of knowledge on the whole. I'm like, if I read something and it sparks an idea in me, it sparks a possibility in me, that was the value in it. Whether or not it's anything to do with what the author intended. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. I had a coach who actually said to me at one point, he said, you're my most successful client, and you've done less of what I've asked you to do than any client I've ever had. But he got it. It wasn't disrespect for him. I had an incredible respect for the value I got from the coaching. It just wasn't in doing what he told me to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was in what being in communication with him sparked in me. And, I say this to the super coaches all the time, to the coaches that we train. It's like, you don't know what is going to do it for them, but you know that it's going to come from inside them. And that gives you room to maneuver, because it's not about you getting it right. It's about creating a sort of a context for them to wake up inside out.
Beautiful. Well, I was going to say last words of wisdom, but I think you wrapped it up nicely.
There you go.
I think it brings it all together.
As a mature entrepreneur.
Yes, we have created something, haven't we? Well, thank you so much for this conversation, Michael. And I'm going to be linking Super Coach Academy. Anything else that you want people to know? The productivity workshop that's happening when?
Well, the productivity weekend, I'm not sure when this will go out, but that's actually coming out quite soon, which is in October 22nd, 23rd. But we have a creativity weekend coming up in December on the 10th and 11th in LA. And Creating the Impossible is a program that entrepreneurs love. We've had a bunch of people start businesses and grow businesses through that program. And that's an interactive online one. So always fun.
And that's on
michaelneill.org.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to link that. Yeah. And I really invite everyone to join me to Creating the Impossible, because I am going to be jumping in. I'm probably going to be using my crazy life project to see how I can play with that. So that's going to be really exciting. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you for having me.